Assalamualaikum to our respected lecturer, Madam Saliza Sulaiman. In this video, we will be presenting on the study of two articles under the topic of fraud. Before we begin, let us introduce ourselves first. My name is Dalili Adlina binti Aisyah.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nufarahanis binti Ali.
Hi, my name is Raja Nurul Fatihah binti Raja Razlan.
Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Suraya Kisina binti Ain. I will start off this presentation with a summary background on the first article, which is titled Fraud Management Accounting and Organizational Value Creation, Evidence from Listed Firms in Thailand. This article discusses on the impact of fraud management in Thailand listed organizations while creating value using its resources to serve its customers. To examine the impacts, we must first gain an understanding of when fraud can occur. Based on the fraud diamond theory, four elements can influence a person's decision to commit fraud, which are pressure, opportunity, rationalization, and capability. Hence, fraud management accounting is utilized as a practice in conducting regular fraud assessment in order to evaluate and respond to fraud encountered by an organization, allowing them to build a fraud control strategy for anti-fraud activity within the organization. There are four issues that the article touches on. The first issue is whether fraud management accounting has an effect on internal audit function, internal audit effectiveness, and organizational value creation. The second issue is whether internal audit function affects internal audit effectiveness and organizational value creation. The third issue is whether internal audit effectiveness affects organizational value creation and mediates the fraud management accounting organizational value creation relationships. And the last issue is whether governance culture affects fraud management accounting, internal audit function, and internal audit effectiveness. To summarize the issue, the author sought to know the relationship between the four factors that can either positively or negatively impact each other. The first factor is fraud management accounting, followed by the internal audit function, internal audit effectiveness, and governance cultures. In this article, we will determine whether or not each of the factors has an influence on each other. Now, I'll pass to Fatihah to discuss the objectives from the article.
Based on the article, the objectives are to examine the effects of fraud management accounting on the organizational value creation of listed firms in Thailand through internal audit function and internal audit effectiveness as the mediators of the study. In addition, governance culture and digital capability are hypothesized to affect fraud management accounting, internal audit function, and internal audit effectiveness. In other words, we can observe from the articles that they conduct a survey regarding the effect of fraud management accounting of the listed organization's firm in Thailand. The survey was conducted by using the internal audit function as well as the internal audit effectiveness. On top of that, governance culture and digital capability may also affect fraud management accounting, internal audit function, and internal audit effectiveness. In this article, a quantitative research methodology was employed. This is the outcome of questionnaires that were addressed to Thai-listed companies, primarily from executives in the internal auditing department because they bear the highest responsibilities of internal auditing practices and other related activities in the organization to ensure the highest quality of financial reporting, maintaining compliance with laws and regulations, as well as detecting and preventing fraud. Out of 768 questionnaires that were mailed, they only obtained a total of 319 responses. 297 responses of the surveys that were completed and written were usable.
Thank you, Fatihah. Now moving on to the conclusion from the article. Quoting from the article, the result of this study suggests that fraud management accounting has a significant effect on internal audit function, internal audit effectiveness, and organizational value creation. In addition, internal audit function affect both internal audit effectiveness and organizational value creation, while internal audit effectiveness leads to organizational value creation. Likewise, both internal audit function and internal audit effectiveness significantly mediate the fraud management accounting organizational value creation relationship. Finally, the governance culture has a significant effect on fraud management, internal audit function, and internal audit effectiveness. Accordingly, executives can support, promote, and enhance the application of fraud management accounting in an organization and utilize this concept as valuable tools in order to create best organizational practice and achieve their business goals in current and future operations. Based on the articles, we learned that fraud management accounting plays an important part in the success of internal auditing activities, the enhancement of best business practices, the creation of value in an organization, as well as the development, survival, and sustainability of operations. This is because it drives the organization activities in a highly competitive situation to achieve and maintain organizational objectives. Hence, firms with the best fraud management accounting can reduce firms' financial losses, offset the weaknesses of operational processes, and promotes internal control effectiveness. Additionally, the internal audit function shows a significant positive effect on internal audit effectiveness and organizational value creation. This is because firms with excellent internal audit function quality can monitor controls, assess the success of management plans, implement strategic initiatives, and develop a high-level performance in the organization. As a result, a strong internal audit function may help organizations to achieve both internal audit effectiveness and organizational value creation. Moreover, internal audit effectiveness shows a significant effect on organizational value creation. This is because internal control effectiveness is a major determinant in achieving a firm's business goals. It provides valuable financial and operational information, as well as useful recommendations to assist them in improving their operation and adding value to the firm. Lastly, governance culture positively affects fraud management accounting. This is because governance culture assists firms in avoiding conflict of interest, detecting fraud and corruption in an organization, and encouraging compliance practices. Hence, it encourages organizations to execute excellent business practices for valued results by identifying fraud in a firm, implementing internal controls, and internal audit practices. Once again, I will pass to Fatiha to present the summary of recommendations.
Two recommendations that we would like to suggest are: the first one, the internal auditor's competence and objectivity must be evaluated. We can measure the internal auditor's competency by considering factors such as educational level and professional experience, processes for assigning internal auditors, and the quality of working paper documentations, reports, and recommendations. Meanwhile, objectivity can be assessed by obtaining information from prior years, such as whether internal auditors have direct access and report to the management regularly, and whether there are policies for internal auditors from prohibiting auditing areas where they are being scheduled or assigned on completion of the responsibilities in the internal audit function. When we have strong internal control, fraud management accounting may be prevented. The second recommendation is that it is recommended to the firm executive to invest their resources and capacities in ensuring the development of fraud management accounting can be implemented and improving its business practices in order to enhance performance and eliminate risk of fraud and corruption. Lastly, the articles had come up with a few recommendations for future research. The first one is the future research may search for other components of fraud management accounting and apply them as independent variables of the study. Secondly, future research may need to evaluate the current literature related to digital capability and its contribution and conceptualize anew the research model. Thirdly, future research may collect data from smaller sized enterprises and other samples in order to confirm the current research results and generalize the current study. And lastly, future research may utilize methods of multiple regression analysis and partial least squares regression to investigate the aforementioned relationship. That is all from our article. Now I will pass the presentation to Nur Farah Hanis.
Thank you, Fatiha. Now we will move on to our second article, which is entitled Analysis of External and Internal Auditors' Use of ISA 240 Red Flags, the Impact of Auditor Estimate of Fraud Pervasiveness. So, according to ISA 240, it defines fraud as an intentional act by one or more individuals among management, those charged with governance, employees, or third parties involving the use of deception to obtain an unjust or illegal advantage. So, red flags are generally used to draw auditors' attention to the potential for fraud, and also it enables early fraud alerts to clients and the auditors. In this article, the author has looked into more detail regarding the ISA 240 and their relation with both internal and external auditors. Now, let's take a look at the issues. Some of the issues that could be found from the article is whether there is a significant difference between external and internal auditors in their fraud risk factor, whether the internal and external audit working for international and local audit firm have a difference in fraud risk factor, and lastly, whether there is difference between the perception of external auditors and internal auditors concerning the importance of red flags and the extent of their use. So to sum up, the issues that are raised in the articles are mainly related to external and internal auditors. As you all know, internal and external auditors have their own scope of work. Hence, the authors sought to know the fraud risk factor, their expectation from fraud pervasiveness, and what worries them about the red flags issue and the degree of the usage of it. Since the author is observing both local and international corporate auditors, the authors wanted to also see how the risk factor varied between these two organizations. Now, let's take a look at the objective. So, the objective of this article is to investigate how external and internal auditors assess the importance of and indicate the use of fraud risk factors in their effort to detect fraudulent financial statement and misappropriation of asset. This study attempts to explain the effect of auditor estimation of fraud prevalence in the business environment on their assessment of fraud risk and their subsequent use of fraud risk factor. To summarize the objective, in order to identify fraud financial statement and also asset misappropriation, this study objective are focusing on the point of view of internal and external auditors. By focusing on these auditors, it can help to find out how both auditors evaluate the significance of and employ fraud risk factor variable in their effort to find out if fraud did occurs in financial statement and also asset misappropriation that I have said earlier. So the author also wanted to find out auditors' perception of fraud prevalence in the corporate environment affect their evaluation of fraud risk and subsequent application of fraud risk factor. In terms of methodology, this article has used a quantitative method. It can be seen when they have used survey instrument. They had collected empirical data from two of the group respondents, which were the external and internal auditors. In addition, they also employed a t-test independent sample and the Pearson correlation analysis. Now, I will pass to Dalili to continue.
Thank you, Farah. Now, let's dive into the conclusion part. The conclusion from the article presents that this study has investigated the attitudes of external and internal auditors towards the effectiveness of fraud risk factors that were introduced by the International Standard on Auditing 240 in assessing the risk of and detecting fraud. Further, this study probed the expectations of the external and internal auditors regarding the rate of fraud perpetration in the business community in Saudi Arabia and how those expectations are associated with the extent of use of fraud risk factors. In addition, this study explored the variations between external and internal auditors regarding their views and use of fraud risk factors. Now, let's move on to the findings part. To summarize, this study's first findings have indicated a significant variance where internal auditors estimated the rate of fraud cases occurrence within organization in Saudi Arabia is higher than external auditors. Besides, the results also shows that the auditors' use of the fraud risk indicators and their fraud pervasiveness estimation in the business community has a positive correlation. By means, if the auditors believe that the rate of fraud cases in the business community is high, thus the rate of fraud cases in the organization could also possibly be high. Furthermore, the findings also demonstrated that the external auditors place more importance on the role of fraud risk factors in assessing and detecting fraud since the internal auditor's perception is moderate. However, although the external auditor's perception is indicated higher, the study further revealed that the use of fraud risk factors between external and internal auditors is actually at the same level. And finally, the findings of the study also prove that the importance attributed to a particular fraud risk factors is highly connected to the extent of its use, since there is a positive and significant association. As for the recommendation, firstly, it is suggested for the study to highlight the steps in fraud risk assessment used by both internal and external auditors, together with how they react to the fraud risk factors put forth by the standard setters, which is International Standard on Auditing 240. Additionally, It is also recommended to examine the relationship between the usage of fraud risk indicators for a specific audit assignment and the perceived prevalence of fraud in a broader business environment, as the fraud pervasiveness in overall business community will be reflected in auditors' fraud risk assessment in a specific organization. Besides, it is also suggested for the study to tailor deeper in specific environment and social condition of each country to support the study on the external and internal auditors' estimation of fraud pervasiveness of respective clients or their own organization, since the rate of fraud cases in the business community in every country is different. Furthermore, the study has come up with the future research recommendation based on the limitation phase, such as the limitation regarding the subjectivity of answers and low response rate from both external and internal auditors. Due to that, the articles indicated future research may improve the investigation by employing other methodological approaches, such as experimental methods, to obtain more objective and conclusive results about the use of red flags by external and internal auditors. That is all from our group. Thank you.